911, where's your emergency?
There's a girl running down the street saying that her stepfather is killing everyone in her family. It's on the corner of where there's a body shop and the fire department. Do you know what road this is?
Show us your fucking hands now! Stand up! Stand up! Stand up! Stand up now! Stand up! Stand the fuck up! Get your hands out of here.
There's been a full admission in this case, Judge. The case is still new. We're still discovering facts. But the evil horror of what we know is impossible to process. In an act of just incomprehensible cruelty, the father that stands before you lined up his 3 young boys, and he executed them in his own home with a rifle. They were ages 3, 4, and 7, Judge. In an act of desperation to save her children, the mother at some point grabbed the gun that father was wielding to attempt to protect them. We know that one of the boys was able to flee into a field near the home. And again, we know from his admission, father hunted that boy down, drug him back to the property, and executed him in front of witnesses.
The case that I'm going to present today happened last year, in June 2023, and had the last trial hearing in August 2nd, 2024. A case that captured global attention, with a lot of repercussion in the media and a widespread discussion on social networks. Videos and opinions flooded the internet, making it a topic of significant public interest around the world. Today, I will talk about Chad Doerman, the man who horrified a nation after tragically executing his 3 children in cold blood. Chad Doerman was born on March 1st, 1991, in New Richmond, Ohio, United States. When these events happened in 2023, he was 32 years old and living in a house in the quiet town of Monroe Township, Ohio, with his wife, Laura Doerman, who was 34 years old, his teenage stepdaughter, Alexis, and their 3 young children, Clayton, 7, Hunter, 4, and Chase, 3. Chad was the family's sole financial provider. He worked as a carpenter, while his wife, Laura, took care of the household chores and the routine of their 4 children. Everything seemed normal until June 15th, when a tragic event thrust that quiet and almost unknown city into the headlines of every newspaper in the country. At around 4:15 p.m., Alexis ran down the street in tears towards the nearby fire station, shouting for help and warning that her stepfather was shooting her 3 siblings. Many people who heard her desperate cries for help went to her aid and tried to grasp an understanding of the situation. These same people called 911 to report the horrifying incident.
911, where's your emergency?
There's a girl running down the street saying that her stepfather is killing everyone in her family. It's on the corner of where there's a body shop and the fire department. Do you know what road this is?
Okay, what's your name?
Laura Lindell Road.
Okay, and what did the female say to you?
She says that her stepfather is killing everybody in her house.
Did she say how or what was happening?
I asked her to get in the car with me, and she said she couldn't leave her family. But I think she ran to the fire department.
Emergency services also received multiple calls reporting the same incident. Dispatchers immediately called the police force and instructed nearby fire department officers to proceed to the scene with their sirens off to avoid drawing the shooter's attention. They needed to be ready when the police cars arrived. Within moments, fire engines, an ambulance and paramedics arrived. Shortly after, police patrols also reached the scene, isolated the area and positioned themselves to begin their approach.
You got him on the porch.
We've asked, that's the last place we've been told.
You show me your hands now! towards us! Stand up now! Walk towards us! Stand up with your hands up!
One officer shouted for Chad to stand up with his hands raised and walk towards them, but he did not comply.
Stand up now!
Instead, he remained seated, appearing non-threatening as he looked at his children lying in the garden.
We're going to approach from this side. We got cover. Right here.
6 covered, 29 and 63 is tied up.
As they approached, they saw Chad sitting calmly on the porch with a rifle on the ground beside him.
Show us your fucking hands now! Stand up! Stand up! Stand up! Stand up now! Stand up! Stand the fuck up!
EMS is staged and air crews are going to go ahead and fly whenever any units can advise.
Get your hands up here.
He offered no resistance as the officers approached, and they quickly handcuffed him. Another police officer moved in to check on the victims, Chad's 3 children who were lying on the floor next to each other. The medical service personnel had access to the scene and upon checking vital signs, confirmed unfortunately that all 3 children were deceased. In the background, the desperate screams of a woman could be heard. It was Laura, the mother, who had just witnessed her children being shot by their own father. In an attempt to help them, she had ended up getting shot in the hand. Chad, lying handcuffed on the ground, showed no emotion in the face of that situation. In fact, he seemed to exude calmness and a willingness to collaborate. He ordered the family dog, which was barking incessantly, to be quiet and go inside. He repeatedly assured the police that he would not resist or harm them, and that he was neither drunk nor on drugs. Chad was arrested on the spot and taken to the police station. Laura, accompanied by her daughter Alexis, was taken to Cincinnati University Hospital for treatment of her injury. It was only later that she received official confirmation that her 3 children were dead. That same night, news of the massacre gained the attention of national media. Americans closely followed the unfolding details of the horrendous crime. According to the police, in the initial statement given by Chad, he confessed to having been the shooter and revealed that he had been planning the crime for several months. The details of his confession were kept confidential initially, but not for long, as later that year, all the details of that fateful day would become known. On June 16, 2023, which was the next day, Chad Doerman appeared at his emergency custody hearing, wearing handcuffs and a vest. His lawyer proposed that the bail amount be $75,000. However, prosecutor David Gast presented some very impressive details to support a substantially higher bail amount.
Good morning, Judge. Good morning. Judge, we've got law enforcement with us here today. Our office has been involved. Lots of people from our office have been involved with law enforcement throughout yesterday afternoon and evening, all the way through this morning. And the facts I have for you at this point are as follows. The trauma that this man has inflicted on his family, the community, law enforcement, first responders, and all of the rest of us who have any idea what's going on here is unspeakable. There's been a full admission in this case, Judge. The case is still new. We're still discovering facts. But the evil horror of what we know is impossible to process. In an act of just incomprehensible cruelty, the father that stands before you lined up his 3 young boys, and he executed them in his own home with a rifle. They were ages 3, 4, and 7, Judge. In an act of desperation to save her children, the mother at some point grabbed the gun that father was wielding to attempt to protect them. We know that one of the boys was able to flee. into a field near the home. And again, we know from his admission, father hunted that boy down, drug him back to the property, and executed him in front of witnesses. The mother was shot through the hand in her attempt to protect her children. Judge, I asked the court setting this bond to just begin to imagine their fear. This was the man that every day they woke up looking to for protection, love, guidance in all things. The man they trust more than any other person on earth. The person they rely upon to keep them safe from harm. He was their world, he was their guardian, and he executed them in cold blood. We know that from his admission. By that same admission, Judge, he has committed one of the most monstrous, craven, cowardly acts that will ever be our misfortune to see. To make things even more disturbing, Judge, this was no haphazard act. Again, by his own admission, he planned the events of this day. This did not happen on a whim. He's confessed to what I believe is the worst crime, at least I hope, that I'll see in my lifetime. I hope it's the worst fact pattern that ever comes before this court. Judge, the facts of this case are hopefully like no other we will ever see. When this case gets indicted in the Court of Common Pleas, I am certain that a no bond hearing will be held, and I would hope that would be granted. But at this point, at this juncture, we're going to ask this court to issue a bond we've never asked for before. I'm going to ask for a bond of $20 million. And I hope I never need to request such a bond again.
As the prosecutor delivered his speech, Chad cried, a reaction quite different from that shown the day before, when he was sitting on the porch of his house, calmly, without any emotion, looking at his children in the garden. The prosecutor also revealed Chad's criminal record. He had no serious charges, just a few traffic tickets and an accusation of domestic violence that had happened over 10 years ago against his own father, Keith Doerman. This case was dismissed after the victim failed to appear for the hearing. According to the criminal record, he had attempted to strangle his father during a physical fight, an incident that had never happened before and was never repeated. At the end of the custody hearing, Chad's bail set was $20 million. The following day, Keith, who lives in Florida, gave an interview to the New York Post. He expressed his confusion and inability to think of or find a logical explanation for the events. He added that he had visited his son the week before and that Chad seemed fine. According to him, the same playful and fun guy as always. He stated that his son had no history of mental health issues, inappropriate behavior, or a criminal record. But when asked about the domestic violence case in which Chad had allegedly tried to strangle him, Keith simply said that it was all a misunderstanding, and that was why the case had been dropped. In the days following the crime, the Monroe Township community was deeply shaken. News outlets across the country provided extensive coverage, including reports, interviews, and even analysis by mental health experts. Social media was flooded with videos from police officers' body cameras and comments from ordinary people. No official statement had been made by the police or judicial authorities regarding the motive for the crime. Clearly, no explanation will ever be enough to justify such a horrific event. Despite the secretive nature of the investigation, in September 2023, court documents became public based on the American Access to Information Law. These documents, which include the testimony from survivors and a few other witnesses, horribly detailed the events of that day in horrifying detail, and as soon as they were shared, they caused further shock, sadness, and outrage among the entire population. Chad confessed to the police that he had been planning the crime since October of the previous year, therefore, for at least 8 months. He reportedly stated that he had been unable to sleep for the past 3 or 4 days, because in his own words, the thoughts of having to kill his children weighed heavily on him. According to these documents, on the afternoon of June 15th, Chad left work early and went home. Once home, he asked his wife and 3 young children to go to the bedroom to take a nap together. The family lay down on the bed as he requested, while his stepdaughter watched television in the living room. A short time later, Chad got up, went to the closet and retrieved a firearm. He loaded the gun, aimed it at his 4-year-old son, Hunter, and fired twice. The noise woke everyone else up in a panic. In total despair, Laura tried to help her son who had been shot, while shouting for the other 2 children to run away from their father. Clayton, the 7-year-old, ran across the room, followed by Alexis, who was already terrified by the noise and screams. She shouted for him to keep running as they headed towards a wooded area a few meters from the house. Chad chased after them and upon getting within sight of both of them, shot only at Clayton. The boy was hit and fell. Alexis continued running, but turned back to try to get home and rescue her little brother Chase. When Chad reached Clayton and saw that he was alive, he aimed the rifle at his skull and shot again, this time at point-blank range. He then picked up his son's body, slung it over his shoulder, and carried it to the backyard. By then, Alexis had already returned home, and Laura couldn't stop screaming and crying uncontrollably. She picked up her younger brother and ran out into the street. Chad followed and caught up with her. He pointed the rifle at her, ordering her to put him down. Alexis, out of fear, obeyed and begged him not to shoot. Chad ignored her, pointed at his son and tried to shoot, but the gun failed to fire due to lack of ammunition. As he was reloading the gun, little Chase ran back home, calling for his mother, passing by his own father. Alexis was completely lost, not knowing what to do or where to go, and her immediate reaction was to run to the opposite side to seek help from neighbors. At home, Laura was in the backyard, trying to help her eldest son Clayton when Chase, crying, ran into her arms. Moments later, Chad appeared in the backyard, carrying Hunter's body over his shoulders. The first son, he shot in the room. He laid him down next to Clayton's body. He then tried to rip Chase off his mother's lap, leading to a physical struggle. In desperation, Chad even bit his wife to get her to release their son. Driven by an indescribable motherly instinct, Laura placed her hand on the barrel of the gun while trying to shield her son, Chase. It was at that moment that a bullet struck her hand. The impact caused little Chase to slip from her lap and fall. Chad pointed the rifle at the boy's forehead and fired. Afterwards, the criminal positioned the youngest son's body next to his brother's and sat on the back steps of the house, watching without any remorse as his wife desperately tried to resuscitate the boys. Despite the detailed chronology of events presented in the released documents, the main question remained unanswered. Why did Chad take his own children's lives? Before these facts were made public, Chad had gone through yet another hearing because what I just told you now ended up causing him to be indicted for a series of crimes. There was a total of 21 serious charges that include assault, attempted murder, and qualified homicide. On June 23rd, a week after the crime, Chad appeared in court to formalize the new charges. Despite having confessed to the authorities his responsibility for the crimes, he now pleaded not guilty in court. Mark Takulva, the prosecutor on the occasion, presented details about the sequence of events and added that at the stage the process was at, further revelations could not be made to avoid compromising the investigation. This information remained confidential until September, when the facts were released. In an interview with reporters after the court session, Takulva stated that the charges of first-degree homicide against Chad included several aggravating circumstances, making him eligible for the death penalty. He concluded by emphasizing that his primary objective was to ensure Chad's execution. On February 21, 2024, Chad returned to court after his lawyer requested that his guilty plea, made during police questioning on the day of the crime, be rejected at trial. The lawyer argued that Chad had been interrogated for 3 hours alone, despite twice requesting the presence of a lawyer. Assistant District Attorney Lara Barron Allen countered that on the day of the crime, Chad knowingly waived his right to an attorney and answered investigators' questions voluntarily. She added that the defense attorney was relying on ambiguous statements regarding the defendant's request for a lawyer. On August 2, 2024, Chad appeared in court for his trial. He was charged with 9 counts of aggravated murder, 8 counts of kidnapping, and 4 counts of felonious assault. However, this time, he chose not to contest to the charges by claiming innocence. Instead, he pleaded guilty to 3 counts of aggravated murder, 1 charge each for the murder of his sons, Clayton, Hunter, and Chase, and 2 counts of felonious assault. As a result of the plea deal, unfortunately there was no possible revelation of the real motive of the crimes, and he would be no longer eligible for the death penalty. After more than a year of legal proceedings and court developments, Chad was sentenced to life without the possibility of parole. Neighbors and other residents of the region created a memorial in the garden of the family's property, in the same place where the little ones were found dead. A small tent filled with stuffed animals, flowers, cards, and balloons honored the interrupted childhood of those 3 innocent lives. Vigils and tributes were held at local schools and at the baseball field where the boys played. Rachel Brown, Laura's sister and the boys' aunt, shared beautiful photos of her nephews, asking that they always be remembered as happy, playful brothers who loved sports and were always full of smiles. Unfortunately, the reason behind Chad's actions remains unknown. Most likely, the theories or evidence will emerge during the trial, and I will provide updates as soon as there are new developments in this case. For the survivors, Laura and Alexis, the psychological and social consequences of witnessing such horror are unimaginable. I hope they both can receive the support they need to move forward with their lives. But it's important that we also focus on the lives of Clayton, Hunter, and Chase, so that they are remembered not only as victims, but mainly as happy, healthy, and completely innocent children. This is one of those stories that leaves a lump in my throat when I need to end the story because sometimes words fail to capture the depth of such tragedy. This is why I decided to end this case with an excerpt from the boys' obituary, which encapsulates the sweet memories they should be remembered for. Clayton Doerman, 7 years old. Hunter Doerman, 4 years old, and Chase Doerman, 3 years old. 3 brothers bonded together in life, and now for eternity, as God has reeled them into heaven for unending days of fishing, playing outside way past bedtime, laughing loudly and non-stop giggling. They loved unconditionally, sharing their big hearts with anyone who they could make laugh and give them love. Clayton, fondly known as Clayton Man, loved making Lego creations, riding his go-kart, telling jokes, singing and laughing while loving his best dog pal, Gatlin. His love language was giving gifts, whether it be finding, creating, or sharing treasures. He loved his family and often looked out for his brothers. Hunter, fondly known as Hunter Dog, loved going to the creek, catching frogs, and his love of baseball extended beyond the ball field to his bed, an attachment like an extra arm to connect him to his ball and glove as he slept. He loved calling his mom and sister pretty girls and telling them he loved them every day. Chase, fondly known as Chasers, loved swinging on swings and couldn't wait to be a baseball player like his brothers. He loved playing with dinos and pretending to be a superhero. He was the best cuddler, wanting his mama to stay close by to give her many hugs. He will forever be known as Mama's baby. They are survived by their loving family,